Hey there. How are you guys doing? Isn't it fun to ask that question these days? How are you doing? I went to the tan salon. Hey, how are you? She's like, oh my God. So it's a loaded question these days. Although if you think about it, that's kind of cool, right? Usually we ask, how are you? And people say, I'm fine, how are you? Or they go, ugh. It's either like sort of fake, a little bit surface, or you're like, oh, I'm sorry I asked, right? But now it's kind of an interesting question because you're getting real answers from people about how they are. So, how are you? How are you doing? Um, it's been so interesting to see everybody's take on not just take is probably not exactly the right word, but everybody's perspective on the coronavirus and what's happening. Because what I see is that how people are seeing what's happening, perceiving what's happening, and how they're reacting and responding to what's happening uh, tells us a lot about what their perspective is, what their belief system is, and what emotional foundation that they're coming from. So I want to talk about fear because um, fear, whoo, it's a big one, right? It stops us from a lot of things. It holds us back from joy. It puts us in shutdown. It puts us in lockdown, talking about lockdown, right? And I think we always believe that if we could just get to this certain place or this certain circumstance or this certain situation or just get like certain things out there in reality set a certain way according to us, like that our conditions are all met, that then we wouldn't feel fear anymore. And that's just not true. Because things are always changing, right? And even if your life is fantastic right now and you have all of this craziness happening in the world, you're not unaffected. Or if your life has been really hard and all of a sudden this is happening and you're like, see, people, I told you it wasn't easy. This is what it's all about, the chaos or the fear or the uncertainty. But what I want to talk about today is how there's a few layers to it, so we're not going to cover it all because I'm actually heading out to date night. Hey, Amanda. So I'm heading out to date night, but I wanted to pop in on this Friday night and talk about fear because I'm seeing a lot of different things. So one is I'm not talking about like pretend it's not happening or pretend things are different or be blasé and say things like, well, I'm not going to get sick. I have my essential oils or whatever. We don't know who's going to get sick. We don't know if anybody's going to get sick. We don't know what's going to happen. And that's true about every single day that we are here on planet Earth alive as human beings. We have no clue. This is a total improvisation, right? So we always have uncertainty, even if we pretend that we have certainty. So I'm not talking, I feel like this whole circumstance is showcasing all of our weaknesses, right? Which is a great opportunity to get clear on, wow, where am I weak? Where do I not have mastery? What do I believe about life or the world or safety or fear or myself, right? All of that. So it's a great opportunity. It does not always feel that way because when you're in the grips of fear, it feels it's horrible. I will say this, last night I was watching some TV and I was like, I got this wash of like cold fear. And I thought, that is not a feeling that I ever want to feel. That's the feeling, you only want to feel that feeling when you're in a moment walking down a dark street and that's your intuition telling you, step into the middle of the street, step into the lit part of the street, walk like you know where you're going and get out of here. That's how briefly you want to feel that kind of fear and how briefly that kind of stress or fear is meant to be a tool for you to take action. It is not something we're meant to feel all the time. So this is an opportunity to see where you're maybe falling prey to fear or anxiety or depression or confusion all the time, right? Because fear is a positive thing when it's used as a tool in those specific moments to get you to safety. But there is no real safety. If you're going to live in the world as a human being, you're supposed to live under a rock. That's what our reptile brains are telling us, right? No, you're supposed to be out in the world expressing yourself, being out there, participating on the world stage in whatever way, shape, or form that your calling is for you to do. And when fear stops you, when it holds you back, that's not what fear is supposed to be doing. That's not what it's there for. And so I'm not talking about pretending that this situation isn't happening, whether your fear is around getting sick or someone you love getting sick. Are you afraid of dying? I think we're seeing a lot of people showcasing the fear of dying or the fear of someone else dying. And that's something we need to get really comfortable with. Dying. I had a guest on my radio show, an end of life doula, and she talked about how dying can be a beautiful thing, and there's a spiritual connection that happens with people often when they're dying that she has witnessed. And so there are potentialities. I'm not talking about pretending that death won't happen, pretending people won't get sick, pretending that it's not a crazy circumstance in the world right now. I'm talking about changing the lens through which you perceive how the world is operating and what's happening, because that lens is that fear. I mean, when they choose fear or love, that's not a superficial choice. That's like act of self-mastery. That's a moment of, how am I going to choose to feel? How am I going to choose to see the world? Like, what do you believe? What do you think is supposed to be happening in the world? Because the world has always been a mess. So it's a little bit like us going, like, this shouldn't be happening. If you're in that place, because I have been there, all right, I admit it, I have very high expectations, and sometimes I question myself and go, am I on the brink there of, what's the word? Oh, darn it, it's not coming to me. Hey, Robin, Robert, Andy, hey, guys. For those of you who don't know me, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm Maya Wild. I'm a life and business strategist, and often I help people rearrange the external pieces of their life, like marriage, work, career, where they live, right? Lifestyle and health choices. But even if we're rearranging the external pieces, we're working a lot on mastery of the internal pieces. And I think that the world situation right now is showcasing that we all need to gain mastery over our emotional state, right? Or at least a lot of people out there do. So darn it, I cannot remember the word that I was thinking of. Entitled. I sometimes notice myself feeling, when I feel like this shouldn't be happening, or it should be happening a different way, like the way that I would prefer, I go, ooh, that's a little bit entitled, right? Because mostly in most of human history and in most of the world, people are struggling. We're really lucky that we haven't had shit like this happen in the United States, which is where I'm sitting in upstate New York. So we're actually lucky. So, I mean, of course there's the desire for that to keep taking place and for that to spread all around the world. Absolutely. But when it tumbles into that sense of entitlement, we need to take a step back and look at it and go, what is my belief? Like, what do you believe about the point of life? What do you believe about death? What do you believe, really to check in with, am I believing the fear? What am I believing? What is the fear telling me? Is it giving me any really good information, or is it just giving me misinformation and more chaos? Because the truth is, it's not about like, oh, I feel the fear. Like when we feel worry and fear, it's accompanied by this sense that we can now, because we feel the worry and the fear, maintain some kind of control over the situation. And that could not be further from the truth. Your elastic and creative thinking completely disintegrates in the face of fear and panic, right? So that's also, there's a very practical reason that we wouldn't want to be feeling fear. But also looking at the whole lens through which you perceive life, and the whole lens through which we perceive life, and how that we then create a certain kind of world or some dynamic in the world, that really matters. So this, like, choosing love or choosing fear, it's not like, oh, I choose love, namaste, right? Because we can see that, and let's call bullshit on that sometimes, right? Because it's like, I promised in this video, no band-aids. I'm not talking about ignorance is bliss or pretending things are different. I'm talking about a bone-deep shift in your perspective out of this instinctive reptilian brain fear into something else. What could it be? Peace of mind, calm, like present, focused, aware, very much tuned in, and like getting into creative and elastic thinking to problem solve, right? So this is not a wishy-washy, mamby-pamby kind of a thing that I'm talking about. And I think about, my boyfriend went to Jamaica years ago, and he was on a trip there where he was working with some local people who were living in extreme poverty, right? In like hut conditions, dirt floor conditions. And he said he came back from that trip changed because of this one elderly blind woman in Jamaica living in a hut who people brought her, fruit on maybe a daily basis. I don't know. She would eat fruit, and that was basically what she ate. And I think once a week people brought her soup. And he said that they were sitting there with her. They brought her a big tureen of soup and some food, and she was just blown away by how wealthy she felt. And she talked about how she just felt really blessed. Why? Because she was not in fear. She was swimming in this like vibe of love that, it's not, you can change the chemical makeup of your body, right? We can change the chemical makeup of the world. And so this isn't some like little fake thing. No, this woman really was swimming in this, feeling this spiritual connection of love and safety without money, without eyesight, without a house with a solid door and a lock on it. That's what I'm talking about. Changing our perspective, changing our paradigm. You might hear people say that, and that's what it means. You're not pretending, you're actually changing your own chemical and emotional makeup, and that changes how you think, it changes how you interact with people, and it changes the quality of your life, even if you're dying, right? Because we're all gonna die. Guys, life does not go according to our plans. You've heard that expression, man makes plans, God laughs, right? Where in your life is that true? If nowhere else, maybe now. And so this is an opportunity. I think it's an initiation for us to really choose how are we going to master how we feel and how we respond, not how we react and panic and go buy toilet paper, right? As an example of what we're seeing. Hey, Karen, Andrea, Natalie's here, Tiffany. Guys, it's so great to see you all. I think I missed some comments because I was in the middle of like ranting and raving. I actually wrote something down, but I don't think I wanted to say anything other than like, really, this is an opportunity to check in with yourself on what you believe about life. What's the point? Is it supposed to be smooth sailing? I was rewatching American Sniper last night. Have you guys seen that with Bradley Cooper? He's so good in that movie. And just looking at that movie and just imagining Afghani, the American troops coming in and blowing things up, blowing up their. I've never had that experience. That happened in Czechoslovakia in 1968, right? Have you seen footage of tanks just rolling in? That's where my dad is from. That's why I think of it. In that time, Prague Spring, Jan Palác, there were a couple of students, but this one student, he was famous, he set himself on fire in protest. So there are extreme circumstances human beings have been in and are in where they meet them fearlessly. And so about nothing less than a personal revolution. And this is an opportunity, even in initiation, for us to connect to love, peace, confidence, safety, and security with absolute uncertainty happening in the whole fucking world. Like it's always going on, but we're just seeing it and experiencing it. So if you're feeling fear, use it as an opportunity. What can you do? I think I'm going to come back on Monday and do a video on self-care because it's getting a bad rep. Like, oh, this is what busy women need is just like another hair or nail appointment or margarita drink with the girls. No, I'm talking about deep spiritual, emotional tending to your heart and soul, right? So I do for self-care, I meditate every day, twice a day. I hang out with my cats. I love my snuggle time with my cats. And I dance, like hardcore, roll around on the floor. Is it pretty? Is it ugly? I don't know. Nobody's there to see. It's not about that. It's about flushing my emotional system, expressing myself. Sometimes I'm curled up in the fetal position crying. Sometimes I'm writhing around. Sometimes I'm jumping up and down singing hallelujah. Right? But every single time after I dance, I am in love with being alive because I'm connected to this undercurrent of this life force that we'll never be able to explain. It's a mystery, right? I was talking to a client today and she said, every single time I walk out of my house and I walk to the pond, there's a shift. But I can't seem to make myself. She's a new client, actually. We were talking about working together. And I'm like, that's why you need the container, right? You need the accountability. Sometimes we need to sign ourselves into a program so that someone outside of ourselves is like, hey, did you walk to the pond? today? Oh yeah, go do it. I had a coach once who was like, until you do the home assignment, I'm not getting back on the phone with you. And I was like, oh my God, I got to do the assignment. I have never done that to a client. I think I've threatened it, but here's the deal. You need to find what will create that shift for you, and you need to find a way to get yourself doing it. So if this is, let's see, Karen's saying just waiting to go somewhere better. Okay, Karen, so I want to say to you like that she's saying she feels like we live in hell and we're waiting to go somewhere better. That is certainly a system that's out there. So that's really great that you've pinpointed it. But then I want to ask you this, like, is that serving you now? Because I've met you, you're a young, feisty, woman with a lot of life left in her. And that is, I think sometimes that's the way fear speaks to us. Like this let's just wait to go somewhere better. I have my own belief where we're going next is going to be really great. I really do believe that. But that's not saying we should not experience it here. I feel like we're called to that idea of heaven on earth. It's like, how can we bring that feeling here and now? I feel like that's the spiritual call, certainly that I feel is on life. So I present that to you as a possibility to see if you can explore that. And she's saying, no, it's not, but that's what it feels. 100% it feels like that. And that's why I think it's important to really nail down, what do I believe about the point of life? Because if I believe that I'm for a reason, I need to connect to that reason today so that I can like move aside the fear, move aside the discomfort, move aside the feeling that this is hell and I just want to wait till I get somewhere better. Because that can be an example of just enduring and you're not fully living, right? And we all have our own version of that default setting. So it takes work, right? So this isn't, like I said before, some wishy-washy like mindset. This is an action, like a way of being that you can start to create for yourself. So I would be so interested to hear, guys, as you watch this, come back next, tell me, what did you do to shift something? What shifts it for you? Who helps you shift and stay in the positive vibe when you're not? Because again, this isn't just something superficial to try to make ourselves feel better in the moment. This is we're trying to create a different way of being human, and then how we show up in the world affects how the world is. This is really what I believe. Again, I'm Maya Wild. If you don't know me, I'm a life and business strategist. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, tell all your friends. If you are interested in taking a closer look at fear and how it's impacting your world and how you can make those kinds of shifts and potentially working with me, send me a private message and let's talk. What better time than now? All right, I got to get off to my date. You guys are awesome. Hey, Kenny, sorry I missed you, but it's really great to see you guys. All right, we're in this together. Lots of love to you.